Welcome to Democracy-ish. I'm Danielle Moody.
And I'm Wajat Ali. And congratulations during Pride Month, Danielle. Your peoples, and by extension, your peoples, because it's never limited to just one group.
Mm-hmm.
You're losing rights. How do you feel? And sorry, I lost my voice because I've been surrounded by 800 kids, but I have some chai. So if you can tolerate RFK not being a friggin' doctor and destroying our kids with anti-vax experts and his interesting voice, hopefully you could tolerate me.
So here's the thing, folks. I just want to say, how am I feeling? I feel like I wish that I didn't turn on any alerts today and kind of just hung around in my bliss of Mamdani and the last weekend of Pride. But I, of course, get a text message from a man that's supposed to be on holiday with his family and says, "Hey, I got an hour. We could still do the show tomorrow if you want to." And I'm just like, aren't you supposed to be taking the day off? Exactly, Jenny. He is supposed to be taking the day off. Don't you people take breaks, says Gus. No, these people don't take breaks. No breaks when the SCOTUS is breaking our Constitution and Trump is breaking the country. So why exactly, Waj, you're supposed to turn your phone off, but folks, we're here. So here's where we are. We got a lot to get through. So let's give our hardest working child of immigrants, Wajahat Ali, a round of applause with his sore throat for showing up today. We're going to start out, Waj, before we descend into the nightmare that is the Supreme Court of the United States.
Yes.
Let's go to where we had good feelings and hope today. This week, which was with the surprising come from behind win of Zohran Mamdani, the 33-year-old Ugandan born child of Indian immigrants to this country who ran as a Democratic Socialist to win the Democratic primary for mayor. Now, I want to say this before you go in, is that normally, winning the Democratic primary for mayor would automatically essentially mean that you are going to be mayor. Like, there has been no other time when you win the Democratic primary for mayor and then it's not assumed. Obviously, they still have general elections, but the way that New York City works is that the primary is the major race. However, thanks to the billionaires and the white supremacists and establishment Democrats, there is a 40% chance that Mamdani becomes the mayor, but there is a 60% chance that he does not. Waj, take it away.
All right, folks. We're going to connect the dots today. And people might say, what does this matter? You know, why is this connected to the rest of America? It's just New York. It isn't just New York. New York is the city, right? One of the most populous cities in America, the most populous city in America, a symbolic city, a diverse city. What we said last week was that this race is a temperature setter, right? This race will tell you about the feelings of the majority. This race will reveal, and I said this in particular, this, I hate being right about this, whether or not the establishment, and by the establishment, it's not just Democrats, it's also Wall Street, it's also corporate media, right? Because it was Lawrence Summers, New York Times, Washington Post, Bill Ackman, we'll talk about him, Palantir, Bill Clinton, and also Representative Clyburn, who went all in with a sex predator, Andrew Cuomo, a man who was completely disgraced. 40% of Cuomo's allies in the past 3 weeks were people who abandoned him 4 years ago. And they came out and did a complete 180, not because Andrew Cuomo's any different, because his opponent is 33-year-old Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani. And we said, let's see. This is the barometer, I think, of America, right? And what happened? He won. He won thanks to, not just by himself, Brad Lander, New York City comptroller, with his support, a Jewish American man, Michael Blake, another black candidate, cross-endorsing each other, They came together like the Avengers and destroyed this establishment, corrupt predator Cuomo. Amazing. So you would think, okay, the establishment, and especially Democrats, well, see where the wind is blowing, Danielle. And instead, what we predicted and what I said, and I said, listen, I hope I'm wrong about this, but the establishment, which I'll define even more, would rather burn New York City to the ground than have Mamdani as the mayor. And what Danielle and I have said, and what Jonathan Metzl said in his book, Dying of Whiteness, is that a part of America, a part of white America, specifically white supremacy, it all comes back to race and greed, folks. You think me and Danielle are crazy? I give you this week. If it comes to a decision between sharing a room with me and Danielle or burning down the house,
burn down the village.
Burn down the village. And Danielle, in the aftermath, the 2.5-day aftermath of Zohran Mamdani with this historic win, totally fair. The people came out, clear victory. Can you tell us what the establishment has done?
Okay, so I'll walk you through what everybody has done, because I want folks to be very, very crystal clear here. Is that while we like to, and it's very easy because when MAGA took off its white hoods and put on a red hat, it is very obvious for us to continually call out their racism, right? You see posts like this from Laura Loomer posting after Mamdani's win. Zohran Mamdani hasn't even been a U.S. citizen for 10 years. Lie. He is literally supported by terrorists. Lie. New York City is about to see 9/11 2.0. Lie. Keith Olbermann, shout out, even though, on the fence about him at times. 9/11 happened under Giuliani, you moron gutter snipe. I just wanted to be able to say that. And he put the New York City emergency control in the World Trade Center after being warned it was likely a terrorist target. Okay. Then there's Charlie Kirk. 24 years ago, a group of Muslims killed 2,753 people on 9/11. Now a Muslim socialist is on path to run New York City. What does one have to do with the other? Absolutely fucking nothing, because there are how many people of the Muslim faith in the world, Waj? 2.5 billion?
Billion. Yep.
Yeah. So 2 billion Muslims. So I guess that, according to the logic of Charlie Kirk, they're all terrorists. Well, if I use that fucking logic, which would actually work with the patterns of white nationalism, which is in bed with Christianity, then I could offer up that every fucking white Christian is most likely a fucking terrorist and run the receipts to you. So then you have all of that. Then Bill Ackman, another fucking racist who is a multi-billionaire, comes out and pledges millions to defeat Mamdani in the New York City mayoral race. He says that he is putting up money to any candidate capable of defeating Zohran Mamdani in the upcoming New York City mayoral election. Ackman also, with his affluent associate, is prepared to invest hundreds of millions of dollars into the campaign of a suitable candidate. He believes that the potential benefits of running for mayor in the next 132 days outweigh the cost in terms of time and energy. So here's what you need to understand, because that's, first off, the Republican piece, right? The Republicans. And Ackman is in bed with everybody, because billionaires are pretty much like whores, right? They'll fucking sleep with anybody so long as they get some play. It doesn't matter. They have no allegiance whatsoever. But so you say,
did you see the Andy Ogles post from Tennessee?
So then you say to yourself, well, Danielle, of course, that's just Republicans. They're going to do what they're going to do. But Democrats, of course, seeing the changing of the winds, seeing the power of the people in New York City, and New York City being a litmus test for where the Democrats should be moving, where would you think they go, Waj? Why don't you tell the people?
As donors work against Mamdani, top Democrats stop short of backing him. So as this is happening, as we're seeing a redux of the anti-Muslim bigotry that was mainstreamed by Democrats and Republicans and liberals after 9/11, I lived through it, folks. I'm a Muslim. I keep all the receipts. the shameless fear mongering, the shameless and disgusting and completely baseless accusations of anti-Semitism. As you're seeing this proliferate from the right, and by the way, it started from where? Cuomo and his campaign the last 2 weeks, as he was getting very desperate. You would think Democratic leadership would stick its finger out, see where the wind is blowing, and say, you know what? Maybe because we're hemorrhaging support, maybe we're losing our base, maybe because we have a favorability rating of 29%, even lower than Donald Trump, maybe we'll protect Zohran Mamdani. Oh, no. Even after he won resoundingly, right? And even after Brad Lander's voters ranked him number 2, and you have Michael Blake and all these others, right? He won. He didn't win by 1%, 2%. He won by nearly double digits. And especially if you add in Brad Lander's ranked choice voting, he's got it, right? What did they do? To this day, Senator Schumer has not endorsed Mamdani. To this day, Hakeem Jeffries has not endorsed Mamdani. To this day, the governor of New York, Hochul, has not endorsed Mamdani. And then this week, just yesterday, on Brian Lehrer's show, the progressive Democrat Kristen Gillibrand, who got Al Franken out because she was a Me Too warrior, doubled down on the bad faith talking points, attacking Zohran Mamdani as a potential anti-Semite due to the words globalize intifada. That wasn't Fox. That was Democratic Senator Gillibrand. And now Cuomo, who 2.5 days ago, everyone was saying, I'm going to lose, based on Bill Ackman revealing the supervillain plot. You know what Daniel just showed you? He revealed it on Twitter, folks. Supervillains don't reveal their plots. Bill Ackman literally on Twitter said, hey, I'm on a secret WhatsApp with all these millionaires and billionaires, and we've raised hundreds of millions of dollars, and we have a chance of defeating. A few hours later, Cuomo shockingly said, I might run as an independent. And so I say, run as an independent. Get freaking beaten again. And I want all the Democrats to have eggs on their faces, right? All these major New York Democrats have thrown Mamdani under the bus. And not just them, also some, Richie Torres, a few others, right? Instead of going and helping Mamdani, right? You have them kind of trying to destroy Mamdani. And who did they do this to a few years ago? There was another upstart person of color who defeated a well-known establishment head and came back from a 2-digit loss. And the Democratic Party tried to throw her under the... Who was it?
AOC.
And who supported Mamdani?
AOC.
Danielle.
Here's the thing. Like we lay out the receipts here because what is incredibly important is to understand that we're fighting a war on multiple fronts.
That's right.
Right. And this is the thing that I want people who listen to Democracy-ish and listen to Waj and I on our separate shows and platforms is that we are fighting a war on multiple fronts. The establishment does not want the people to win, and Republicans don't want the people to win. And so understanding that there is no party that is aligned with your values and your vision, that it is going to be a people-powered movement that is going to stop fascism and that is going to stop the hyper-capitalism that drives the status quo. It is going to be up to us. And those of us that have the ability to back the representatives and voices of people who are aligned with the people and not aligned with power. And what we can see, and I said this today on Blue Sky, I said, I have not canvassed for anyone since Obama. And I will tell you that I will do everything on and off microphone over the next 132 days to ensure that Mamdani wins. Because anyone that the establishment is against and that billionaires are flooding hundreds of millions of dollars to take down, that's my fucking person. And that's the way that all of us need to understand. Stop begging for Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer to do a fucking thing. Stop begging for these establishment Democrats to show up and be resistance fighters. Stop begging for these people to see us and care about their constituents, because they do not. We are in it with each other. That is why I continue to say we need to link arms. That is why I continue to say that they put up these fissures to make us fight like crabs in a barrel over the scraps that they leave behind. And it isn't just MAGA. It has been the establishment Democrats that have enabled, right, the devil like Trump to be at our doorstep right now. Donald Trump wouldn't have had a hope and a prayer had Democrats not seen that he was a joke and also taken his fucking money over decades, which they all did, including Hillary Clinton. So, folks, like this is real talk today, particularly as we're about to move into. And I would just want to play. I want to play two facts.
Let's put this up there. Tell them this. This is the point. There you go.
So Reckler, who donated $250,000 to a super PAC supporting Cuomo, expressed hope that the former governor and Mr. Adams, who is running in the general election as an independent, would not split the centrist vote. I pray to God that they do. Go ahead, right? Run Cuomo. Cuomo can't win, so maybe next time he'll run as fucking Big Bird, right? Because again, what does that show the voter? You have no integrity. You have no morals. You have no fucking values. And if your sexual predatory behavior wasn't enough, switching parties to try and slime your way onto the ticket should show New Yorkers every fucking thing that they need to see about how disgusting Cuomo is and how disgusting these billionaires are, that they think that they can buy our voices because that's what they want to do.
But look at that. Can you read that final quote?
You want to have a leadership that speaks to what New York is. It's the capital of capitalism.
I'll repeat that. It's the capital of capitalism. They're revealing their true colors. The masks are off. The hoods are off. The monopoly man with the top hat has taken off the top hat and the cane and thrown it and told you who he is. They're telling you, folks, this is as clear as it gets, that they're willing to burn New York City to the ground, right? They're willing to burn their party to the ground. They're willing to give two middle fingers to the people of New York and say, oh, you voted for Zohran Mamdani? Okay, let's rehabilitate Cuomo and let's rehabilitate Turkish delight Eric Adams. And we'd rather have these two frauds run the most beautiful, vibrant, most populous city at the expense of the needs of the working class and the majority, and we'll ignore your needs and do whatever we can with our money, our power, our weight, our establishment to crush you, right? It's just like what the DNC did. Shut up about Palestine. Shut your mouth. What are you going to do? You're going to vote for Donald Trump? You're going to vote for us. You know what people said? We're not going to vote for either of you. 18 million people who voted for Biden stayed at home. You think people aren't going to get radicalized, Danielle? Even Danielle said right before I joined on, I said, you know, Danielle's been on it for a while now, like the last couple of months. She goes, I think I'm done with the Democratic Party. But seeing this week, and it isn't, you know, before we talk about Zohran and, you know, capitalism, right? It isn't because Zohran's Muslim or South Asian. I was talking to Qasim Rashid last night. I'm supposed to be on vacation. Qasim was up. I don't know if you saw the Danielle.
I love Qasim. No, I didn't see.
Qasim was up at 12 o'clock. And I'm like,
Qasim, what is wrong with you, men?
I'm like, Qasim, I saw you do a Blue Sky post. I'm up too. You want to talk for 20 minutes as two Muslims on Mamdani? He goes, I'm tired, putting my kids to sleep. Okay. So we talked about it, and folks, go watch that conversation, right? Because as this is happening, this ain't lost on us. This has been happening for 24 years. Intifada, 9/11, terror attacks. The same shit happened to Mahmoud Khalil. The same stuff is happening to pro-Palestinian activists. The same stuff is happening. It's all connected, right? And America normalized it due to the war on terror, and you got the hazing of Muslims and Arabs. You got this disastrous war that left generations traumatized in Iraq and Afghanistan. And because the boogeyman was Muslims and Arabs and everyone who looks Muslim-y, America said, all right, Patriot Act, that's fine. America said, okay, Department of Homeland Security, that's fine. America said, ICE, yeah, we need it. Now look at ICE. And we kept saying, you're fine with it now because it's us. This will be used against you. You're fine with it now because you're perfectly content giving up your liberties for the feeling of safety. Our existence makes you uncomfortable. It was Donald Trump who then played on Islamophobia. And how did he attack Obama? Danielle, can you remind me?
Birthright citizenship.
Anti-Black and anti-Muslim smearing. Donald Trump, what did he run on? What made him like just with the base? Muslim man. What
Right.
was the first thing he did in administration?
Muslim and show me your papers.
Sure.
Where Barack Obama, first president in history, having to release his long form birth certificate, only black man. Why? Because a white man told him that he needed to show his fucking papers. Like, this is the same. And this is why this show and what the work that Waj does and the work that I do is so important, is because no one is connecting the dots. They take these things as separate siloed incidents and don't understand the patterns, or rather, let me say this, don't want you to see the patterns. They don't want you to connect the dots. They want you to take each incident as one thing and not the other, right? So here's the fact. As I want to go back just real quick, as Reckler says very obviously, quote, you want to have leadership that speaks to what New York is, Mr. Reckler said. It's the capital of capitalism. Why do they see Mamdani as a threat? Take a listen to what he says about capitalism.
That's what you think this means. I mean, do you like capitalism?
No, I have many critiques of capitalism. And I think ultimately the definition for me of why I call myself a democratic socialist is the words of Dr. King decades ago. He said, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism. There must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country. And that's what I'm focused on, is dignity and taking on income inequality. And for too long, politicians have pretended that we're spectators to that crisis of affordability. We're actually actors, and we have the choice to exacerbate it, like Mayor Adams has done, or to respond to it and resolve it, like I'm planning.
So I want to be very clear that when Mamdani says we can have a better system that has a redistribution of wealth, people like Ackman, people like Reckler, people like Bloomberg, people like Musk, people like Bezos, what they hear is, I can't consume as much as I want. I can't hoard as much as I want. They're going to come and take from me, even though they amassed that ungodly amount of money by taking from every single body else. So whether it is Jeff Bezos that says you can't unionize, you can't go to the bathroom, I'm going to pay you at the bare minimum, and then running campaigns to ensure that you don't raise the minimum wage, running campaigns to ensure that workers remain at the bottom of the barrel, just barely able to survive, ensuring that the architects can build more buildings that are here that have zero low-income affordability that is associated with it. Our housing should be a right, not a fucking lottery. And that is what it has become in New York, as well as other very expensive states and cities around this country. And so Mamdani comes in and is waking up the people the same way that Martin Luther King woke up the people, the same way Malcolm X wakes up the people. And what happens to those people? They are either assassinated or their character is assassinated. And then they tell us, they say, you don't want that handout. You're better than that. You don't want socialism. You don't want affordability. You want to be able to be the next Musk or the next Gates or the next this or the next that. It is a fucking lie that they have been selling so that they don't have to share. That is why they are threatened by this man right now.
The lotto ticket. I see people more and more every week at 7-Eleven buying those lotto tickets. Maybe I'll be the one. I'll be the magical minority in the Hollywood movies who gets out of the hood and the ghetto. I'll be the slumdog millionaire. And maybe, just maybe, the fates will smile upon me as the rest of the people just toil away. It's the 1% versus the rest of us. The rich get richer. All of us get poorer, folks. And the people who have spoken out about the inequities and inequalities that are caked into the system, because the system is white supremacist and the system is run by greed. What do Danielle and I, what have we been saying for years? The twin sins of America are what? Racism and greed. Racism manifesting itself primarily through white supremacy, greed manifesting itself through this version of capitalism that is Unicron, the supervillain from Transformers the movie, the planet-eating planet that gobbles up everything. Galactus, the destroyer of worlds, just munches on communities, destroys them, even takes their bones, even takes their shoelaces, eats up everything. It all goes to the top, nothing to the bottom. And something to say about workers, folks. Oh, workers are lazy. These blacks and these immigrants. You know what's been happening to American workers for the past 40 years? Ever since that mother effer Reagan? American workers are more productive. They work longer hours. They work harder.
Yep.
They leave more vacation days on the table than even Japanese workers and European workers. And what's happened as a result of this productivity and the profitability? The profits have gone up. Nothing has trickled down. Wages have stayed stagnant. Income inequality has widened. Rich have gotten richer. Poor have gotten poorer. And people are struggling just to stay alive. And Zohran comes and says, let's not have a failure of imagination. Let's imagine something different, something better that breaks the status quo. And that's why it's so threatening. And Danielle, you said something that, before we move on, I mentioned this with Qasim yesterday because Qasim brought it up. Qasim, just like you said, man, I'm really worried that they're going to kill him. And he mentioned Edgar Evans, he mentioned Malcolm X, he mentioned Martin Luther King. And I said, Qasim, I'm so glad you brought this up because a couple of days ago this week, the day before his victory, I'm in a couple of WhatsApp groups with, different folks, but some of them are Muslims. And I'm like, guys, if this guy wins, I'm really terrified they're going to kill him. And people said, who's they? And I said, all these right-wing extremists, all these freaks, these hate mongers, all it takes is one person. I give you Vance Bolter out of the news 2 weeks ago. Vance Bolter, Republican, right-wing.
Melissa Hortman and her husband and their golden retriever lay in state today. Lay in state today in Minnesota, lay in Capitol today. Vance Bolter, the white national, his name out of the fucking news.
Gone. Are Republicans, have Republicans been asked to condemn him? No. But it's always the rest of us have to condemn violent actions done by people we've never met. And that's something that me and Qasim talked about yesterday. So it's not just Muslims, also black people, Asians. Republicans haven't been asked to condemn. Christian nationalists haven't been asked to condemn. We don't even talk about Vance Bolter. Democrats, if I was a Democrat, I'd put Vance Bolter in the news 24/7. But what have they done? They've put the cannons on Zohran Mamdani, their guy who just won the primary. And my fear is, and I still have this fear, folks, as a result of Cuomo and Democrats spending this money in the past 2.5 weeks, the racist ads, another report came out that now there are credible threats against Mamdani's life. So the fact that Qasim said it, then I said it, because I don't want to sound hyperbolic. I'm scared for Mamdani's life.
I mean, here's the thing. I was scared for Barack Obama's life. I'm scared for anybody's life who is not white, who is not who speaks out and awakens the people. The thing that you have to understand, and this is why I believe in decentralized power, and this is why I actually am very close to being like, you know what? I may not like all of the things about the Democratic Socialist Party, but I sure as fuck know exactly what I don't like about the Democratic Party, and I don't want to be an independent. But the fact of the matter is that decentralized power ensures that if you take out one person, right, that the movement continues. We have to understand that this movement is not just about Mamdani. It is about awakening the people to their power and recognizing that you have been hoodwinked, you have been bamboozled, you have been lied to, right? And fed this lottery style mindset that if you just get one more scratch off, if you just work 80 hours a week, if you just keep your head down, that somebody somewhere will notice you and one day you'll be able to afford that house that is now at 7.2% interest rate because you can't get a fucking mortgage, right? Like, because all of the big corporations are buying up low-income properties and then just selling them, right, well above market so that they can make a profit. Folks, all of it is connected to keeping the people meek, to keeping the people oppressed, to keeping the people silent. And anybody that has popped up over the course of the 250-year project of America that has broken out and said, we don't need to be beholden to these oligarchs, they lose their lives. Their lives are taken from them. And that is a warning shot to keep the rest of us, to put the rest of us back in line, right? To keep our heads down and keep grinding ourselves to death for their benefit.
Yep.
So I want to say, real quick before we move on, I just want to show this because CNN, they don't even understand how fucking stupid they are, right?
You went to where I was talking about. Great.
You are interviewing Zohran Mamdani, you're asking him about capitalism and, oh, are you a capitalist? And he's saying, I have issue with capitalism in the same way Martin Luther King had issue with capitalism. And right as they finish this interview, folks, I shit you not.
Well, Assemblyman, thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Obviously, right now, center of discussion in the Democratic Party. And tomorrow on CNN, New York City Mayor Eric Adams will be on the lead with Jake Tapper. That will be at 5 o'clock. And next, we take you to Venice, where capitalism rules with Jeff Bezos' $50 million wedding.
Where capitalism rules with Jeff Bezos' $50 million wedding. Wow. So now you want to talk about, oh, New York is the center of capitalism. This is the center. And then you just pivot to this inflated, bloated, greedy, fucking disgusting people. I tell you, there's a guy, Waj, that is on Instagram. I love him so much. His name is Blake Thornton, and he is the funniest queer Black man on social media right now. And he's showing all of the A-list celebrities that are showing up for Bezos's wedding. And he's like, just so you know, all of these people are losers. He's like, fascism, but make it fashion. And he's showing pictures of Kim Kardashian, pictures of Leonardo DiCaprio, that he's like, oh, remember when Leonardo DiCaprio was like a fake climate activist? And look at him on this $50 million fucking yacht at this wedding, taking ask me how many private jets landed in Venice for this wedding?
40.
95. Damn. But we're sitting over here, right? Like recycling our bottles and thinking that we're going to put a dent into the climate change crisis and thinking that if I recycle my yogurt cup, that'll do it. Meanwhile, they're flying basically tons and tons of carbon into the air. 95 private jets. If it's not a piece de resistance, onto a city that's sinking because the water is rising.
$50 million wedding. And all the billionaires came. All the billionaires. Folks. Oprah. She's a billionaire.
Oprah, Gail, space. This was a voyage. Don't call it a bitch miss me with it. Okay? Like, it is disgusting because what do they all have in common? Their wealth.
It's a big club and you ain't in it. And I'll say another thing, because since we're keeping it spicy, there's going to be more Luigis. And the people will be behind the Luigis, sadly. By sadly, I don't want to encourage vigilante violence because this is a country which has weekly mass shootings and has more guns than people. And we've seen that the world's worst people have guns, people like Vance Bolter. But I said something in response to reading some of the Supreme Court decisions today. And what I said is, this is not tenable. Justice Roberts has single-handedly destroyed the reputation of this institution, which is supposed to act as a check and balance. And there comes a time when the people finally say it's enough. We haven't gotten to that point yet, Danielle, but this is what happens with power. It also becomes very arrogant, and it assumes the people will just go along with it. They'll go along being screwed. They'll go along being stepped on. They'll go along being choked. But there is something in America, folks. Something in our DNA. We were born out of revolution, the Tea Party, right? Something in us, like it just is, it's part of the narrative that you can't tread on me. And we've seen this incremental steps towards progress and equity, whether it comes through violence or civil disobedience, right? Or nonviolent resistance. There's something there, the No Kings rallies. And the billionaires, and specifically the establishment, which includes Democrats, thinks, Danielle, that will take this forever. And I think, being a student of U.S. history and just knowing a little bit about my people, people get really cynical. This is close to breaking, Danielle.
Oh, yeah. So, speaking of breaking, and you brought them up because this was the breaking news today. I woke up to this news, and I don't know about you, Wash, but I said, wow, Had the Supreme Court passed this kind of obscene decision 40 some odd years ago, you and I would be detained.
Oh, yeah.
Because our families are immigrants to this country.
Yep.
Our families became naturalized citizens.
Yep.
And I believe that what is next on the hit list for this Supreme Court and for this white supremacist project, for this white delusional project,
It's all connected, folks.
is going to be denaturalizing citizens of this country. And then what happens? And so I don't know about you, Waj. I got on the phone today to my mother and I said, it's time. We need a plan because they pull your citizenship and we don't have any recourse, right? Like, we got to figure out a plan. We're not riding this shit out.
And
So,
folks,
please speak to what happened. Please speak to what happened.
I mean, it's twofold, right? Because the Supreme Court and a 6-3 decision with the conservative majority backed Donald Trump's request to scale back, right, the nationwide injunctions that were passed by judges that were blocking the administration's ban on automatic citizenship, which, by the way, is guaranteed thanks to the 14th Amendment and the Constitution, right? And they want to restrict immigration because Stephen Miller's plan is to make this a white nation again, right? So what they're saying is, oh, hey, we, the Supreme Court, are essentially going to handicap our own power as a judiciary. We're going to make sure that the lower courts, which have been the most significant block on Trump's authoritarian agenda, are now essentially weakened, right? And we're going to give Donald Trump and the executive authority more power, right? Even though this is completely unconstitutional, right? But hey, the lower court judges, these district judges, they don't have the right to challenge what is clearly an unconstitutional plan, right? So we'll allow it in effect, right? We're not going to talk about the constitutionality of something that is clearly unconstitutional, but why this is even more dangerous, what people are realizing behind the scenes, is this Supreme Court that gave Donald Trump, not Joe Biden, let's be clear, it's not Democrats, it's not Joe Biden. Anytime it came to expanding executive power under Democrats, the Supreme Court limited it. But because it's Donald Trump, the same Supreme Court that gave him what? Absolute immunity last year for core functions and thereby granted him immunity from prosecution for his numerous crimes, has now said, hey, lower courts, you have to defer to the executive. And so they've removed a roadblock, which has been mostly successful in the past 6 months, Danielle, because he's lost 90 cases, right? And voila, over this, Danielle, which is so clearly unconstitutional. And I believe it was the liberal dissent. I don't know if it was Sotomayor. I think it was Jackson who talked about this eloquently. And also, I believe it was Jackson who compared this to Dred Scott.
So in her dissent for the court's 3 Democratic appointees, Justice Sonia Sotomayor called out the court's rewarding of the administration's gamemanship. She noted that the administration didn't ask the justices to fully block the lower court's rulings against Trump's policy. Why? The answer is obvious. To get such relief, the government would have to show that the order is likely constitutional, an impossible task in light of the Constitution's text, history, this court's precedents, federal law, and executive branch practice. So the government instead tries its hand at a different game. It asks this court to hold that no matter how illegal a law or policy, courts can never simply tell the executive to stop enforcing it against anyone. Instead, the government says it should be able to apply the citizenship order, whose legality it does not defend, to everyone except the plaintiffs who filed the lawsuit. She continued, adding that the gamemanship in this request is apparent and the government makes no attempt to hide it. Yet shamefully, this court plays along. In her own separate dissent, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson said the court's decision to permit the executive to violate the Constitution with respect to anyone who has not yet sued is an existential threat to the rule of law.
Well, and can I also add what she wrote?
Yeah.
The majority's ruling thus not only diverges from first principles, it is also profoundly dangerous, since it gives the executive the go-ahead to sometimes wield the kind of unchecked, arbitrary power of the founders crafted our Constitution to eradicate. The very institution our founding charter charges with the duty to ensure universal adherence to the law now requires judges to shrug and turn their backs to intermittent lawlessness. With deep disillusionment, I dissent.
I again, I will say this, that I am a child of immigrants. My family came to this country in 1970. My mother became a citizen of this country 2 decades later. And my sister and I would not have been considered citizens of this country if this Supreme Court existed 40 years ago. And it is obscene to think that this Supreme Court is moving in lockstep with this white nationalist project and giving you some bullshit read around of the rules that they don't even care about. And so I say that when you recognize that the country that you're living in is no longer bound to the Constitution that it was supposed to be bound to, what recourse, Waj, do the people of this country then have? Because I am telling you, we ain't voting our ways out of this. I have said that for the longest fucking time. We are not voting our way out of this. That this court, right, in this week, in this last week of Pride, in this week of Mamdani, in this week of Bit of Hope, is saying to you that your voice, your vote, your legalized pathway, we are blocking. And so there is only so much pressure. There is only so many obstacles. There are only so many no's that a nation formed in rebellion will be willing to bow their heads to. So this, to me, is a gunshot in the air to our Constitution, to our republic, and the people must answer.
The Supreme Court, since last year, has made it clear to anyone who wants to open their eyes and be, as Danielle says, woke, is making it clear that they're following the unitary executive theory, which they believe means the Constitution allows for a strong man, a powerful executive, a commander-in-chief to rule over us like daddy and king, the words that are now used openly by the Republican Party to define Donald Trump. If you didn't believe us last year during their shameful ruling that gave the president, not the president, because Biden was president, Donald Trump, absolute immunity for core functions, I give you this ruling in which they neuter their own power as judges to help the executive branch do what? Strip away citizenship from the rest of us. And speaking about how it's connected, Andy Ogles, the racist representative from Tennessee, what did he threaten Zohran Mamdani with yesterday? Daniel, tell him.
What's it, deportation?
Strip him of his citizenship and deportation.
On the grounds of what?
Because he's brown and he makes them uncomfortable, right?
Got it.
And if you don't think this is the plan, folks, if you don't think they're trying to hijack us back to, I've been saying this for years, 1953, before Brown versus Board of Education, people said, watch, this is the world's worst, I told you so, folks. Me and Daniel get no joy from this, right? Our batting average, like we've been saying for 3 years, we'll put it up against all these experts. We've been wrong a few times. We've been right a lot because we understand how they think. You have to understand racism and greed to understand this country, right? In addition, during Pride, right? Pride isn't over yet. Today, I want to talk about it real quick before we talk about the attacks on women, right? So attack on immigrants, wink, wink. Attack on Muslims with Zohran Mamdani, wink, wink. All right, also got to go after the gays. So what do? Mahmoud versus Taylor. Parents now, according to a 6-3 decision, families are entitled to preliminary injunction, meaning school must pause enforcement of lessons while the case continues. What lessons, Danielle? Parents now have the ability to opt out children from lessons involving LGBTQ topics in public schools.
Take your fucking kids out of school. Put them in fucking private school. This to me has been, people don't understand. This is why I became a teacher, because schools have been the battleground for justice since the beginning of fucking time. First, we had to remove prayer from school. We had to remove indoctrination from school in so many different ways. We desegregated schools. Then they wanted to bomb schools and spit on kids. And now you are here. And who are they using, Waj? Who are they using in the same way that it was an Asian woman that overturned affirmative action? Who are they using?
Sorry, folks. Sorry to be the bearer of news. Muslims in Maryland. And if you've been following this show and reading me, I've been on this for 4 years, warning not just some of these Muslims. I know some of them, and they're angry at me. Majority of Muslims are against this, by the way. Majority of Muslims went for Harris. But for 4 years, Danielle, on this show, I've been telling Democrats, pay attention to the attack on CRT. Pay attention to the attack on DEI. As Danielle was saying, pay attention to how they're using schools. Pay attention to what's happening in Loudoun County. Pay attention to the Glenn Youngkin race. Pay attention to parents' choice. Pay attention to how they're demonizing LGBTQ, specifically transgender, and using that with parents' choice and coming after kids. Folks, this is going to activate the lizard brain of otherwise educated, smart people and make them completely unhinged. You need a response. You need a robust defense. You need a better counter message. And what do, Danielle?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I'm like, what do they do? Oh, well, let me rack my brain for it. Nothing.
I've been on it. It's in my community, DMV, right? Loudoun County was a test subject. Bullshit conspiracy. They had Republican operatives on the ground in the DMV, right? They started infiltrating mosques. People like Moms for America, who are also Islamophobic. And someone sent me a recording because a friend of mine came to the khutbah, a Jummah khutbah. It's the sermon on Friday. And he's like, holy shit, man. They had this nutty Moms for America racist lady. They gave her 7 minutes after khutbah. And she came in and she said, you know, we might have certain disagreements, but we both believe in God. I'm a Christian and we're parents. And guess what? This is what they're doing to your kids. Essentially, they want to make them gay. People don't know any better. And they're like, oh my God, they want to make my kid gay, right? And then you saw all these Muslims with the lizard brain, not realizing, and I want to bring it back full circle. And what I kept saying, and I wrote about it in the New York Times, gay people didn't ask me to write this. I didn't look for any flowers. I got hate. I got so much boycott. I got people who knew me, imams who knew me, threw me under the bus because I said the stupid letter that you wrote last year, right before Pride, throwing LGBTQ people under the bus and siding with these nutty Islamophobes who are hiding their anti-Muslim bigotry, preying on you based on religion and fear of gays. It's going to come back and bite us in the ass. I wrote that in the New York Times. Go see it last week. I have all the receipts. I wrote a piece in the Daily Beast 3.5 years ago talking about how they're going after CRT, DEI, and specifically LGBTQ, just like how they went after Muslims and Sharia law. It's all connected. No one listened to me. My own people didn't listen to me. And folks, some of these Muslims, the way racism works in America, as Danielle said, they used Asians to go after affirmative action. You know what they said to the Asians?
You're the good
one of us.
You're the good ones.
You'll never be white.
Everybody starts to become a little bit more white when they realize that their numbers are dwindling, right? So you get the white Latinos. Oh, you're Cuban. Oh, you look like us. So just don't speak the Spanish and come over with us. It's the reason why all of a sudden back in the 19th century, it was, oh, Irish, we hate you. And we put up signs that said that you're despicable and should live in a ghetto, but our numbers are dwindling. So come with us. And because whiteness is the ultimate goal, right, of people living inside of these United States, is that the whiter you are and the closer in proximity that you have to whiteness, the better off your life is. So when they decide to open the country club doors and they say, psst, Asians, come over here. White Latinos, come over here. You came in the right way, not like those Mexicans, not like those El Salvadorians. Oh, I know that you don't like them anyway. Psst, come over here, right? They need to broaden their tent, but the pass is, it's not a brown paper bag like in the Black community. You just got to be palm colored, right? You got to be palm colored.
And also, the contract is you have to be the enforcer of white supremacy. How? As Danielle said, you have to punch down against another group. That's the hazing ritual. Are you willing to punch down against another group? Come on in. But stay at the gates. Maybe you could have a toe inside. You won't be white, but you'll be asymptotic. So Asians, go after the blacks. It's the blacks who are keeping your kid away from school. And as a result, what happened, folks? Asian enrollment, black enrollment in these schools, down. White supremacy used them. And as a result of this ruling, these dumbass Muslims, I know some of them, they're pissed off at me. I said, you have a failure of imagination. You think it's going to stop at LGBTQ. It never just stops at one.
No, it doesn't.
My friends who are writers who just happen to be Muslim, have written YA books, have nothing to do with Islam, just have Muslim characters, has said that their books in the past couple of years have joined the ban list simply because one character talks about Islam. Do you think this is going to end just at LGBTQ plus issues and topics, Danielle?
No, because first they come for, and we are seeing it with a speed and veracity and velocity that we have not seen. And so to close out today, because the Supreme Court keeps showing its full ass, right? What else did they do? Oh, that's right. They have paved the way for South Carolina and other red states to defund Planned Parenthood. Why? Because now they're going to block those needing to use Medicaid funds. 80 million Americans, by the way, are on Medicaid for getting access to Planned Parenthood. Why? Because Planned Parenthood is an abortion provider. Is that the only thing that Planned Parenthood provides? No. They provide pap smears and cancer checks and screenings and a whole bunch of other services, but that doesn't matter. And in some cases, it's the only place that people can go to, because in rural places, guess what? Hospitals are closing because of lack of Medicaid reimbursements, and other things are closing. 80 million people rely on Medicaid, and the Supreme Court just said, fuck you, poor people, die.
Basically, because folks, in all seriousness, as Danielle said, as a result of that decision, women are going to die. As a result of Dobbs and the cruelty that has been enacted in states, red states such as Texas and Georgia, women who want to become moms have already died because they cannot access healthcare, because abortion is healthcare, because abortions also are necessary when women who want to be moms have problems in their pregnancy that requires what, Danielle? Abortions, right? And guess what? OBGYNs are fleeing Texas and Florida because they realize, oh my God, the way these statutes that have been passed under these right-wing bigots can be interpreted in a way that not only can I not practice medicine and, uphold my oath and protect women, I might be prosecuted for doing that. So they're fleeing the red states, meaning these women are even more vulnerable because they don't actually have
no. And I just want to, I want to, and we're going to end on another bad note, but I want to remind people of this. You think that these things don't matter. You think that these laws and the way that they are passing them to essentially kill women doesn't matter. Adriana Smith is a Black woman who was said to be brain dead in February in Georgia. Adriana Smith, remember her name, because her parents wanted to take her off of life support when they realized she was brain dead. But the state of Georgia forced them to keep her on life support until just about a week ago, because she was pregnant, to force her by vis-a-vis C-section to give birth to a 1-pound baby. against the will of her family. She was used as a fucking incubator, which is an exact scene out of The Handmaid's Tale. It is disgusting. It is despicable. And it should have been on every news station. But because she was a Black woman, it was not. These laws have real life implications, life and death implications. And speaking of death, is this story. A Canadian citizen dies at ICE detention center in Florida. How? How does this man die from cardiac arrest in an ICE detention center? He's a Canadian citizen, folks. How does this happen? Authorities are investigating the death of a Canadian citizen who died Monday in the custody of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The man, Johnny Novello, 49, was found unresponsive on Monday around 1 p.m. at the Bureau of Prisons Federal Detention Center in Miami, according to the statement, which was released on Wednesday. Medical staff administered cardiopulmonary resuscitation, automated external defibrillator shock, and called 911. And I want to know, how long was that man in distress before anyone bothered to call 911? And because these are private fucking detention centers, who is allowed to go in and see the conditions that these people are being forced to be in? These are death camps. What's his face? DeSantis was just on television, just on cable news, saying, look at our showers over there. This is our new detention center. Look at our showers. And somebody said in the comments, yeah, I can think of another facility that had showers too.
And what they're planning in Florida, and it would be leading news if there weren't 19 other news showing the decay of our modern society thanks to racism, greed, and disinformation, is they're planning a CCOT in Florida in which they're proudly saying it will have no oversight and it will be surrounded by alligators, where people like this poor man who's a Canadian citizen will probably be shipped to die in the United States of America. Folks, white supremacy and greed. We've been saying it for a while. And with everything that was just said, especially that last news, you still can't have Democrats in the year 2025 say abolish ICE. And you still can't have Democrats say expand the Supreme Court. And so if this Democratic Party is not going to change, burn this ish to the ground. Burn them to the
Pass
ground
me a match.
and build something better. Or if you don't like that analogy, cull them. Cull them all. Hollow it out of all the waste and corruption, right? Like you're cutting away the rotten parts of a fruit and then let something good, whatever goods remains, maybe like a little core, keep them and then build around it, because we need a robust party that can challenge authoritarianism and racism. And right now, the Democrats aren't getting it done. And folks, when it comes to the Supreme Court, we're stuck for 40 years. That's why elections matter. And not just elections, electing the right people, Danielle. People like Mamdani and others who are at least willing to fight. And folks, it's up to the rest of us. I'll try to end on a hopeful note. They still respond to the majority. They still respond to pressure. Just how human beings work. The small incremental change we've seen in the past 5 months is because the people have put pressure on the LA Dodgers to reject ICE. And then the Dodgers gave $1 million to all the immigrants, right? It's the people with the No Kings rally. It's the people who said F you to all the law firms who bent the knee. And now all these corporations who don't give a shit about any of us are like, our association with these law firms is hurting us. Goodbye, law firms. We don't like you. Costco did good. Target went down. Why? Because the color that trumps even the color white in this country is the color green. Use your dollar, use your voice, use your votes, use your feet. We need all of us 10 toes down against this authoritarian project, which is coming after
every single one of us. So, folks, I want to take a moment to thank all of the people who gave today, which was a lot. Demetria for your $10, Jules for your $30, Bonnie for your $9.99, Electron for your $149, Valerie for your $19.99, T-Gal for your $2. Barb, as always, for your $3. Spring for your $25. Ernst for your $10. Carmen, a child, for your $10. Jenny for your $10. And Snow for your $5. All right, folks, you know the drill. We are independent media. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you're watching this on Waj's Substack, he is at the left hook. Hit subscribe. He keeps all of his content free. You can become a paid subscriber. My Substack is the Damn Digest. I keep all of my content free. Like, subscribe, and consider being a paid subscriber. Consider being a super sticker, giving a super sticker and a super thanks. Waj, go enjoy the last bits of your time with your family. You just got $5 for your chai fund from Tiger. Thank you, my dear friend, for being a comrade in arms. We will get through this together. We appreciate every single one of you. Find some joy this weekend. Do something good. Celebrate the last weekend of Pride. Get out there, dance, spin in the streets. Fascism will not win so long as we have voices. Be well.